לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שרת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וידבר משה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל יקדע ויתקדש שמי הרבה ויעמד יברך ירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויום איכון וחייתי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך ויעלם עולמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודש הבריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן ויאמרו amen. The Amidah for Yom Tov begins on page 41. Remember to insert the parts to both Pesach and for Shabbat. Page 41, the silent Amidah. המצות הזה, זמן חירותים יחד מקרא קודש. המצות הזה. Ose shalom bimromav, oyase shalom aleinu, v'yakol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, v'yakol Yisrael. 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 V'yimeru. Amen. So, Leah, looks like you've got a special guest. Would you like to tell us about your guest?
This is my niece, Eleonora.
Hi there. Shabbat shalom. Welcome.
Old.
3 years old?
No, 5.
5. Oh, my God. What a big girl. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Shabbat shalom, everybody. All right. So, American Jews like to think of that their American and their Jewish sides of their identity as being congruent, that they not only agree with each other, but that they reinforce one another. This was articulated, for example, in the Siddur many of us grew up with, the Sabbath and the Festival Prayer Book by Silverman, which was used widely in the conservative movement from 1946 until the publication of Sim Shalom in 1985. And in that Siddur, there was a reading that said, America, founded on biblical precepts, and it quoted 8 American texts, each followed by a biblical passage that essentially said the same thing. And it is indeed that the case that American and Jewish values often overlap in some important ways. Both systems of thought, for example, are strongly committed to government by law so that even society's authorities are limited in their powers, whether that be the high priest, whether that be the rabbi, whether that be the president, whether that be the prime minister, all are controlled and have an authority higher than them, and that is the law. Both, although for different reasons, respect and protect every individual to a far greater extent than one would experience in a dictatorship or even a communist nation. These similarities, however, should not blind us to the important differences between American and Jewish perspectives on life. One such difference is embodied in the origin stories of the Americans, as we think of the War of Independence, and the Jewish nation with the Exodus, and then the laws that then follow up on those experiences. Specifically, the American Declaration of Independence asserts as a self-evident truth that all people are created by are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've heard this. And so as an American, I am an individual, and therefore I have rights. But in contrast, in the Exodus story, we leave Egypt not as individuals, but as a group. And when we get to Sinai, we don't get a single right bestowed upon us. Rather, we get instead, by traditional account, 613 responsibilities. Rights and duties can be reciprocal. So, for example, my right to my property establishes a duty for you not to steal my property. Anybody disagree? Okay, good. We're in good shape here. But rights and duties are not always reciprocal. So one's duties to one's children, for example, are not the same duties the children have to the parents. We all recognize that. One's responsibilities to one's country are not the same as the country's responsibility to the individual. Most importantly, if I get up in the morning as an individual with rights, the world owes me something. But if I get up in the morning as a member of a Jewish community, I owe the world. So my entire orientation to those around me is vastly different in the American and Jewish understandings of who we are. This then has implications for what freedom means in the two traditions. The American concept of freedom is that I, as an individual, have the right to do anything I want as long as I don't harm you. American law can and it does set limits on my freedom so that I don't harm you, but the burden of proof is on the government to show why it must limit anything that I want to do. Freedom in American ideology, therefore, is freedom from government restraint to do what I want, although with limits to avoid harming others. In contrast, again, Passover, the holiday we Jews know as our holiday of freedom, is about freedom from slavery in Egypt. The Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, and it comes from Tsar, straits. It's called the Mitzrayim, it's called Egypt because the Nile empties into the Mediterranean, not as one river, but in a series of straits. And as a result, Jews can and do interpret the Passover story as celebrating not only freedom from physical slavery, but also slavery from the other straits of life: poverty, illness, prejudice, war, ignorance, and so on. That freedom, though, is not intended to enable me to do whatever I want. It is instead enables me, along with all other Jews, to fulfill the privilege of fulfilling the commandments we received at Sinai as a free nation. Along with these different understandings of freedom come very different views of what my responsibilities are. And one very good example of that is that in common law, something we Americans inherited from England, I have no absolute responsibility, no duty to rescue someone in dire straits or even to call 911. And by the way, that's the law in 40 of the 50 states. I see somebody in trouble, I have no legal responsibilities in 40 of the 50 states. In 10 of the states, there is a statute that says I must call 911, but other than that, I'm done. I have no responsibility to help anyone. Jewish law, on the other hand, says I have a duty not only to help, to call others and notify them that help is needed, but actually I have a responsibility to rescue people who are in trouble. The Talmud bases this on the law in Leviticus, which says, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Now, my goal is not to denigrate one system versus the other. We gain independence, we gain initiative, we gain creativity from American individualism. But we also gain social connection, mutual support, and moral sensitivity from Jewish communal responsibility. And as American Jews, our task is to balance these parts of our identity in order to reap the benefits of both. And that is not an easy challenge. It's hard to be a Jew. Shabbat Shalom, v'Chag Sameach v'Kasher. We turn back to our prayer books. We're going to continue with Vayechulu on page 47. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi'i milakto asher asa Vayifot bayom hashvi'i mikol milakto asher asa Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i Vayikadesh oto Kivo Shabbat mikol milakto asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Kone Shamayim v'Aaretz Magin Avot bidvaro Mechayim metim b'mamaro Ha'el HaKadosh she'en kamohu Hameniach li'amo b'yom Shabbat kodsho Ki v'amratza le'aniach lahem Ki v'amratza le'aniach lahem Lifanav navod v'yirav ha'pachad v'nodeh lishmo b'chol yom tamid ben habrachot el ha'oda'ot Adon ha'shalom Mikadesh HaShabbat Barek Tzvi Umeniach Bikdusha V'yamedu Shnei Yoneg Zecher Lemase Bereshit Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Ritzei v'imnuchatenu Kachenu b'mitzvotecha v'ten chalkenu b'toratecha Tzavenu mitovecha v'samchenu b'yeshuatecha V'taher libeinu li'ovdecha be'emet v'hachilenu Adonai Eloheinu v'yavau b'ratzon Shabbat kodshecha Yanuchu v'Yisrael Mekadesh Shemecha Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Kaddish Shalem, page 48. Yitkara v'yikara Shemei Rabba B'yamad ויברח קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קרב ימרו אמן יהי שמירה במברך לעולם עולם ימיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתבלש מקודשה בריחו לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תפגתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן תתקבל צלות הון ובעל הון דכל ישראל כל אדם אבא הון דבשמיה ויאמרו אמן יש לומר רבה מן שמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. Turn to page 50. On 50 we have the Yom Tov Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bachar banu mikol am v'romemanu mikol hashon v'kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'yava Shabbatot limenucha u'moadim l'simcha chagim u'zmanim l'sason et yom HaShabbat hazeh v'et yom chag matzot hazeh Zman cherutenu b'yava mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu b'karta v'yotanu kidashna mikol amim v'shabbaru moadei kodshecha v'yava u'ratzonim b'simcha v'sason hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh Hashabah Yisrael v'hazmanim. L'chaim. So we're going to turn to page 55 at this point and count the Omer. And there are many reasons for the Omer, and the rabbis will give you quite a few. One of them that I read that has always stuck with me is very pragmatic. Very pragmatic. We have the advantage of being able to turn to our calendars and say, it's the 15th of the month, it's the 14th of the month, it's time for Yontif, let me get started. It's the first day of Tishrei, I know it's Rosh Hashanah, I can get started. That's not the way Jewish practice took place until somewhere around the 4th century when they created a calendar. Before that, two people would go up into the mountains and they would notice, they were designated by the temple, by the leadership, to say, I see a full moon or I see no moon, and therefore Yontif is starting. Now you can tell clearly if there's a full moon or if there's no moon. It's not a matter of debate. Either it's there or it's not. All of the holidays, therefore, start on either the 1st of the month, a new moon, no moon, or the 15th of the month when there is a full moon, with one exception. That exception is Shavuot. Shavuot falls out on the 7th day of a month, which means half a moon. Now, what you might determine to be half a moon is not what I might determine to be half a moon. So it's not just a matter of do I see it or not, it's what is that really a half? How can I be sure? And so what the rabbis did was create a system whereby, the Torah does it actually, the Torah creates a system whereby from the 2nd day of Passover, you count the days of 7 weeks and a day And you know, because since you knew when Passover started on the 15th, that 50th day has to be the 7th day of the month of Sivan. It's very pragmatic. And I suspect many of our customs began as pragmatic behaviors and later had superimposed upon them more spiritual kinds of meanings. But the reality of it is, this was the only way they could be sure that they could tell there's a half a moon. What's a half a moon? You know, it's again, you tell a kid to cut the piece of pie. You ask kids, cut the piece of pie in half. One person gets to cut it, the other one gets to pick. I want to pick because I know what the half I want is. It's going to be a little larger. Okay. Who gets to determine what a half is? All right. So they came up with a very pragmatic way of dealing with the fact that Shavuot occurs neither on the new moon or the or the full moon. We turn to page 55 at the bottom of the page. I can tell you that last night we counted the fifth night, so you can kind of guess what's coming. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu aspirat haomer. Page 56. Hayom shisha yamim laomer. Tonight is the sixth night in the counting as we lead towards Shavuot. So with that, we turn back in our Sidurim to page 51, and we continue with the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol atik gedula liotze breshir shelo asanu ki goye aratzor v'lo samanu k'mitbara adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו וזולתו כך כתוב בתורתו ידעת יום בהשיבות אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ימל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד כך כתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו On this Shabbat, our hearts go out to the families of Mervyn Wolf, Nathan Levine, Stephen Robbins, and Hy Warshaw. We're observing the yahrzeits of Theodore Buck, Alvin Diamond, Ethel Epstein, Edith Frank, Carl Friedman, Harry Furash, Francis Greenberg, Hannah Greenberg, Irv Hammett, Bernard Kagan, Eli Kaplan, Samuel Korenman, Alfred Kramer, Arnold Podell, Susan Beth Rolnick, Irving Schneider, Eli Schneider, George Shepard, Samuel Solomon Spielman, Herbert Stern, Hilda Sternberg, Jane Joseph Sugarman, Francis Seif Tall, Victor Wilkes, and Mayor Jack Wolford. The words of Kaddish can be found on page 52. Please unmute.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah.
Amen.
Yirah yirutei yamlit malchutei. B'chayei kol yomifon v'chayei devubi Yisrael. Maglabi zman kariv yimru. Amen. Hey shmei rabbah barak le'olam amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yifar v'yitrabam v'yitnaseh. Yitgadar v'yitalev v'yitalam shmei kudshav v'hu. Elam Mikol Bechata Beshirata, Dushbechata Benechata Damiran Bimoab Yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Shlomo Rabba Yishamayim,
Shemayim.
B'chaim Alim B'Akal Yisrael B'Yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'Ramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Alim B'Akal Yisrael B'Yimru.
Amen. Amen. Arlena, are my notes correct that Eli was your dad?
Yes, he was my father.
Can you tell us a little bit about him? Share with us a little bit about Dad.
Sure. My dad was a pharmacist back in Boston, and he graduated when he was 19 and had his own drugstore at 20.
Wow.
And, yeah, and that's when they had the pharmacy open 7 days a week. And he was a wonderful father. And the main thing he always said to my sister and I, my sister's name was Barbie, you two can be anything you want to be. He gave us so much confidence, so much self-confidence, and that's what I have today.
That's wonderful. What a gift.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
What a gift. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So not a lot happening again as we sort of kick back off into the post-Pesach. Tomorrow morning services are at 9:30. During the course of the morning, we will chant sections of Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. Sunday morning, we have again services at 9:30, Yom Tov services, during which we will recite Yizkor as a community. I'm going to share. I have the benefit of a pulpit, and so I'm going to share a personal simcha with everybody. I will be going to Phoenix this week. My niece is getting married next weekend. Only 15 people. Been nice. One of the real blessings of the career I've chosen is that 30 plus years ago, more than 30 years ago, I did my brother's wedding. 2.5 years ago, I did his son's wedding, and now I'm doing his daughter's wedding. So it really is. There are some real blessings to the opportunities I've gotten as a result of the career I've chosen, and I don't think it gets any better. I'll be standing under the chuppah with the 3 couples. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I believe Tuesday we will resume with Zoom at noon. Resume with Zoom. Yeah, that's it. You will resume with Zoom at noon. So please check out the announcements for that. And we'll have lots of programming going forward as we go into May. And we're going to start up the bar mitzvah cycle very soon. And that's also, it's about time. We went a long time without b'nai mitzvah. It's very nice to celebrate together as a community. We're going to finish up with Hatikva on page 395. Oh Lord, believe nefesh Yehudi Omiya Ufate Mizrach Kadima Ayin Letzion Sophia Od Lo התקווה בת שנות 2000, לאותם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים, לאותם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. We invite everyone to find someone in their home, someone in their hearts, somewhere in the world to extend blessings to as we conclude with Birkat Kohanim. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichonecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom, a special yashir koach to Sarah for having been our Gezumbite. This is her first Friday night on the job. Way to go, Sarah. All right, to everybody, a good Shabbos, a good Yontif. I hope that Sunday night you will enjoy the pizza, whatever it is you're going to experience in a new way.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Hi. Hi, Gail. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Love you.
Bye. Hag Sameach.
Bye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.